Hi, today I'm here to talk about what I think makes a better belt, in particular the edge finishing, and why that makes a difference in the quality and durability of a belt. Now, I've been making handmade leather belts since 1977. And again, I notice a real difference. It's rather hard if you're buying them online because you can't really necessarily see this. And of course, pictures don't always compute to what you're actually getting. I have some other videos that I talk about other things to look for, but today I'm particularly talking about the edges and why it makes a difference and why I think my belts in particular are a little bit better than some of those you find on the market, and it boils down to the edges. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jan Hibbard, and I've been making handmade leather goods since 1977. My business is Log Cabin Leather by Jan. You can find me online at logcabinleatherbyjan.com. But again, belt edging. Belts have always been my bestseller. And I've talked a lot about the designs that I make on the belts and things. I have some other videos to talk about edges. The first thing that makes a difference now, when you cut belts by hand, you buy a belt strip or whatever, the edges are raw. I'm not sure how well these edges are sharp. This is how the belt is cut from the hide. Now, this is beautiful, smooth leather on both sides. This is the inside of the leather. This is the tooling side. This is a tooling piece of leather. Um, these edges are sharp and straight, and that affects comfort. It digs into your stomach. It's not as comfortable. It's not as smooth. The fibers here are not smoothed off. And that's what I notice with a lot of vendors at other craft shows. Now, I don't go around a lot of times looking too much at other vendor stuff, but at a few craft shows, they come around and really check out mine and wonder why people are buying my belts over their belts, even though mine might be a little bit more money. Well, this is part of the reason. I also custom fit my belt, so that's a different approach too. You get a belt that fits perfect. But again, that's a video for another time, which I do have. So the first thing is, after the belts are cut, the edges are beveled. Now, see, this is the step that I see missing. Now, what that does is it cuts these little strips off both sides. So this is on the top of the belt. And again, you do it, go in a certain direction, so it's done opposite. And then it's also done on the back of the belt. That rounds off the edges. I'm not sure how well. Again, if you can see the difference between here and here, how they're rounded. Now that's going to make it smoother because it's not as sharp against your stomach. But now these fibers right here are still very rough. So this is the next step that comes in. Before I go to the finishing, it has to be dyed. And that actually is the hardest part of it sometimes. I can dye it, but as you can see on, I don't know if that shows very well in the camera, not all of this is dyed here. It's a little bit lighter on the bottom. It's not as even. This is what I'm trying to get. So the color is even throughout on all of the edges. So you want the edges darkened like it is in here. So I have to apply dye. Once the dye is put on, then I still a lot of times go over it with, this is a marker that has dye in it. And again, I'm standing so my head is cut off the camera. That I go over the edges and it kind of fills in, because sometimes you get these little tiny grooves on here and it doesn't fill in solid. After I dye it, there's still sometimes little nooks and crannies that don't dye. I do try to get all those filled in first. This can also be done again at a later step. So the edges are dyed. So now my color is all nice and smooth along my edge. Now the next thing is to smooth these edges down so they're not rough, so that little fibers, now on something like this too, these little fibers are going to rub off on your clothes. Like if you had something made of suede and it's rubbing against your clothes, it's going to leave little fibers. Leather is a messy material. I think it's just as bad as wood as far as you have scraps, you have little fibers, you have little dust fibers from things like this. It is pretty messy. Once again, so back to what I was doing. Once the edges have been dyed, then this is what's called tragacanth. I don't know if that shows on the camera. Usually I put this in a jar and I when I'm doing a multiple of belts, but for today I'm just gonna do it this way. So because I would be doing this in a different part of my workshop, and that's where it's hard to do with a camera. So now this is on all the edges. I need to make sure I get it on the inside edge, the outside edge. And you put that on, and you put it on this side. And again, not all people do that. Some people just use water, or water is okay, but it's going to wear off. There are some other things that apply a dye with a finish in it, but it's really like an acrylic finish. And what I find with those is it wears off the edge and sometimes comes off on your clothes. So that to me, but it's like plastic, so it peels off fairly easily and quickly. So I don't like that. So you put this on, it's clear. I have put a finish on the belt prior to that, so if I get a little bit of that on the front of a tool, a belt, it's not going to make a difference. I do generally wash them with saddle soap if I need to. But then I use a burnisher. This is the next step that a lot of people don't do either. They might just put that on and leave it. But the burnishing makes a difference. Now, this is a little burnisher on a Dremel. This is my travel burnisher. When I go to a craft show, like I said, I custom fit a belt for a person. So I shorten the belt, but then I have to trim the end off, bevel it, burnish it, dry, or dye it, burnish it, all that. So this is my travel burnisher, so I can do that. Again, I have a larger one that's attached to a drill press. It hangs like this, but it's much bigger around. And I rub the belt on that as it spins by itself. This one, obviously, I'm going to hold in my hand, but same basic purpose. And it has grooves in it, so the belt fits in there like perfectly. And you just keep going. Now, when I'm doing it on the drill press one, I slide the belt all through in one direction along the whole edge rather than back and forth like this. Either way, it really works. And it's making the edge shiny now, and it's making it smooth. And again, not the edges and all this were not all completely dyed. And then a lot of times I turn it upside down, and I do it the opposite way too, because I'm trying to get these fibers that you have rounded off all smoothed up. And it's making the edges shiny. Now, some people, again, use a wax. Wax comes off on your clothes. And that was by some very professional people told me to use the wax. And I tried it a couple times, and it's like, that is going to come off on your clothes. And surely enough, it did. I did it on a couple belts, and it came off on somebody's clothes. So now that's smoothing these down so they are silky smooth. That's going to make the belt more comfortable around your stomach, but it's also going to make it glide through your belt loops easier without catching, especially if, it's tight to the belt loops. If the belt loops are narrower for the size of the belt you have, it's going to fit through smoother. So those are some of the things that I really think make my belts a little bit better than some other belts on the market. I do have a new belt line that will be coming out in March, which I don't know if you can see here behind me on the table, but these are some of the belts from the collection. And actually, this is the step that I'm to now. I've got the designs on all the belts. They're all dyed. I'm applying the finish over the top. Now I'm ready to do the edges on all of them, which is when I will be using the full drill press over there in the burnisher. So again, beveling and burnishing the edges really make a difference in the finishing of a belt. It makes the edges rounder, smoother, more matted down, makes the belt more comfortable. And I think that helps to make a better belt. It's going to last a little better because it's not going to rub and things like that. It's not going to rub as it goes to the buckle, all things like that. So that's what I think makes a better belt. Once again, this is Jan Hibbard, Log Cabin Leather by Jan. Please subscribe to my channel if you thought this was interesting. They're not the most exciting videos in the world, but I do have a lot of other videos talking about how I make the hand tool designs on my belts, how I carve pictures on leather, all different aspects of my products that I make. I make a lot of jewelry, things like that, how I cut the things out, and so forth. So please subscribe to my channel here. Also check out my website. I have information on my blogs on my website, logcabinleatherbyjan.com. And that's going to wrap it up for now. Thank you very much. Again, a thumbs up I would appreciate. Sharing, anything like that helps a small business like mine grow. Thank you very much. Have a great day. Bye.